A very good morning to all my dear friends. I am Prashant Mavani. I hope you all are doing good. Today is 16th April 2020. Day is Thursday. I would like to start today's discussion with this quote. The person who can bring the spirit of laughter into a room is indeed blessed. Spirit of laughter. Here the word spirit means a feeling, right? Feeling of laughter. And remember, I'm not talking about happiness. I'm talking about laughter. Laughter is basically when you are, when you're laughing out loud. And if you go through the life of, or the story of a monk from Japan, he's also famously known as Laughing Buddha. So he was known for his ability to make people laugh. And the good thing about laughing is that when you are laughing, you are not in your past, you are not in any sort of future worries. You have to be in the present, or you are in present when you are laughing. So think about it. With this, dear friends, we have many articles to go through today. We have a total 7 articles. The first one is going to be this one, stress test. It's about lockdown. We are going to talk about WHO as well as Mr. Trump's bad decision regarding WHO. Then we have one article about the changes that we need to do with our parliament. Then we have one on this one, getting the containment strategy in India right. It's about poverty and the steps that we need to take, of course, for this lockdown to work. Then we have harmonizing with nature. Very interesting article, very important article. It's talking about 2 extremes, right? Macro level as well as micro level. What are the things that are going on? And then we have this one in India's response, a communication failure. How government has failed in communicating things associated with coronavirus. And the last one is end the harassment of farmers now. With this, dear friends, I have a good news for all of you. We have launched smart courses on our mobile application for UPSC pre as well as mains. Dear friends, this smart course is available on EMI as well, so you don't have to pay for all these courses in one shot. You can pay it in installments, and this will help you to carry on your studies without affecting that much on your, or being too heavy on your pocket. And you know the faculties that you can see on your screen. You have gone through their lectures. You know the quality of the lectures that these faculties are delivering, isn't it? So basically, I can safely say that you are getting this course from the best faculties of our country. All you have to do is download our application from Google Play Store. To download the PDF of today's lecture, check out my Telegram channel. Dear friends, please make sure that you share this lecture with other students. Hit the like button if you have learned something from today's discussion, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Stress Test. As we all know that lockdown is going to stay there for 3rd of May, right? Lockdown 2.0 is on, and a staggered rollback. That means incrementally we are going to get rid of, so we are going to phase out this lockdown. Step by step, we are going to make it more and more easy for various different important services. So from 20th April, we are going to see that a partial reopening of the economy is being proposed, and it is very important as well. It's just like your car batteries. I'm sure many of us will witness this thing, that if we have not turned on our car or motorcycle for throughout this whole lockdown period, then after 3rd May, we are going to face a very big difficulty in starting our vehicle. That is because after once your battery, if it drains up to a level, after that it becomes very difficult, or you have to use some external sources to rejuvenate your battery. In the same way, in economy, if economy hits a rock bottom, then it becomes very difficult for any country or for a system to rejuvenate that economy. So it is important that step by step we allow some things, economical activities. We have to allow some sort of economical activities, and it is important for livelihood as well. You see, in our country, we have a huge chunk of, roughly speaking, 50% population is still living under poverty. If you go through World Bank figure, then 650 million people in our country are living in this poverty line, or under this poverty line. So government has said that small service providers like electricians, plumbers, IT repair, motor mechanics, carpenters will be allowed to operate, and industries outside city limits, certain types of construction both in rural and urban areas, segments of service sector, manufacturing, partially it will open after 20th April. But of course, this items or this sectors will open in those places where we have very few or controlled coronavirus cases. Hotspots like big cities, for example, Mumbai, in Delhi, and other places, you cannot allow the thing to take place, isn't it? You have to keep them under lockdown. And I think we will find a few pockets in our country where lockdown will go on post 3rd May. I hope that this lockdown ends as quickly as possible, but this is something that we have to prepare ourselves for. This inevitable thing. And normalcy, if you ask me this question, or I don't think so anyone has this answer, like when normalcy will return. I think normalcy will return when we have a vaccine or a treatment for this coronavirus. Till then, we have to prepare ourselves to live in this sort of conditions. State and local administrations could continue with a tighter level of control on economic and social activities if required. And this statement, if you read between the lines, then this is basically a flexibility, right? Flexibility given to state as well as local administrators, that if they want, they can control, or they can make things a bit more tighter, and if they think like things are under control, then they can make it a bit loose as well, or activities can be allowed. At the same time, we need to allow tailors as well, because we need masks in good quantity for our general public. And if we can allow tailors, and if they can continue their work, if they can produce masks in masses, then this will bring down the price, and everyone can afford it as well. And if more people can afford it, then more people will be able to use it, and this will also help us in fight against this coronavirus. New measures also include punishment for spitting, and this is very important. Those people who are chewing tobacco and gutka and spitting here and there, this is not acceptable, because this is this is how the disease, various different diseases, they spread if people are not following this hygiene etiquettes. Those violating quarantine could face up to 6 months of jail as well. Now, there are a few things that government should improve. Right, communication skill. We are going to talk about communication. There is one article on this communication, or lack of communication from government. What government should do now is the thing is, see, there are many people, there are many companies, they will not pay salary to their employees, we have 90% of our population, right? They are working in informal sector, our workforce, workforce, not population, our workforce. So the total workforce, out of total workforce, 90% is working in unorganized sector. So you cannot expect each and every employer, that we cannot say that each and every employer will pay full salary to his or her employees. But what government can do, government can come out with a very innovative technique. I'll give you just one example. For example, government can say this thing, for example, that if you pay right salary to your employee, then you will get tax deduction. Or if you are not paying tax, if you are a very small business, then you will get a sort of support, maybe in loan or credit or something. So this way, government can ensure that people are lubricated as far as money is concerned. They have money in their hand, and this will give them a confidence, for survival. At the same time, government should expand its food basket, the things that government is providing to people. We need to add some more things. And I'm not saying that government has not provided anything. If you go through my yesterday's daily financial news analysis lecture, the last discussion was based on yesterday's daily financial news analysis. Last page of the slide was on this infographic from Economic Times. And I'll give you one figure. If you want, you can download the PDF, right? It is available on my Telegram channel. So please go through it. So government has basically, the latest figure is that 32.32 crore people are, they have received money in their account from government. So government is trying its level best, but still we have to understand that there are many people, there are, I think, lakhs of people are there, they don't have account. Their account is not associated with Aadhaar or mobile phone. So we need to find out a new way through which we can either get them on board, we can have their GEM Trinity working, or we can give them money or help, right? So this is the thing. At the same time, urgent attention is required for general health care. We'll talk about this point. We'll talk about when we move on. We have one article which is covering this point in detail. Moving on to second item, disastrous decision by Mr. Trump. A very sad news coming from global arena that WHO has been seeking at least $675 million for helping these poor countries. And on the other side, we see Mr. Trump administration. Mr. Trump has said that he is stopping, he is going to halt this funding to WHO. Now, mind you, WHO gets its biggest, or the biggest contributor to WHO is USA. It provides somewhere around $500 million per year. And this amount may look a bit big, but the thing is, we have to understand USA is a superpower. USA has made huge amount of money from the world. So if you are giving back to an organization that is part of United Nations, then it's not a sort of charity that you are doing. At the end of the day, it is helping you as well, right? I'm being a bit harsh here, or being a bit more, you can say, blunt here, but this is how it is, right? If you are helping WHO, if you are giving money to WHO, then you are not doing any favor, to be honest, right? If Ebola is, or Ebola, coronavirus, or this sort of pandemics, right? If WHO is helping other countries to control it, then it is, you are not only helping that country, but you are helping your country as well. That you don't want this sort of viruses to hit your shores, isn't it? And what about low and middle income countries? What is their fault in this whole this tussle that is going on between USA and China and USA and WHO? And Mr. Trump has blamed WHO, and it's quite strange. Previously, he praised China and WHO, and now he is blaming China and WHO. If you go through WHO's rules and regulations, right, then one thing is there. WHO is not authorized. It cannot independently investigate what is going on in individual countries, right? It can share information, it can advise you, right? These are the responsibilities of WHO. It can guide you, but it cannot take over your country, and it cannot do a thorough investigation. It has to rely on the member state to provide information. So blaming WHO alone is not going to help, right? We are living in a very critical time now, right? What we need to make WHO a bit more stronger, so that it can reach to every nook and corner of this world. It can reach to all those sub-Saharan African nations and other countries of Asia who are struggling. For example, Iran, Pakistan, right? These countries are struggling. Even developed countries like Switzerland, right? Switzerland, I don't know why we don't find Switzerland in news. But if you see per capita ratio, then you find that Switzerland is struggling. I'm talking about this coronavirus per capita ratio. Switzerland is having huge amount of cases of this coronavirus. But we are only talking about USA and Italy and all these countries. Switzerland is also struggling. It's a rich nation, no doubt, but it is struggling. So there are so many countries, right? They are devastated. Their life is destroyed. And Mr. Trump is taking this very I would say poor judgment, poor decision of not giving money or not helping WHO. So this is not that you are not just helping or you are stopping this aid to WHO. You are blocking or halting this aid for humanity, because as I told you, these poor countries, low and middle income countries, they are going to hit, they are going to go through it, or this will destroy them, because for them WHO is the only I would say messiah or a sort of hand holder who will help them. And faulting WHO is also a sort of strategy, like Mr. Trump wants to wash his hands. He wants to throw this responsibility on someone else. His failures, he want to blame it on someone else. That's what it looks like. And there are so many countries, they are openly criticizing Mr. Trump's decision. And one thing that I would like to say here, that I'm not, I would say, unhappy with Mr. Trump personally. I am talking about USA and this post of president of USA. USA is a global leader, and a country that is global leader and a leader of this country, he should represent humanity. He should if he's a superpower. Nuclear weapons, they don't make you superpower, right? This soft skills, soft side as well, they are also very important. And this is the time when we display and we help each other rather than this sort of muscle flexing. So I hope you have got the main points here. And one more, two things that I would like to highlight here is that there has not been one instance when that is WHO, has been found covering up the epidemic in China, and rather WHO has been continuously urging countries to aggressively test people exhibiting symptoms and trace, quarantine, and test contacts to contain the spread. So blaming WHO is not fair. Moving on, getting the containment strategy in India right. In India, the lockdown was sudden. And I think lockdown, you cannot have a phased lockdown, right? Lock out or maybe exiting lockdown. You can have phases for it, but for lockdown, you need it, like that. Like it has to be a sudden move. Because if we allow 1 day or 2 days to people to travel from one place to another, to go to a safe place, a so-called safe place, then this is basically sending virus to every nook and corner of our country. So I think it is good that government has came out with this sudden lockdown, but there are many things that government can do and should do, or it could have done. For example, communication. It's very important. We are going to talk about communication. We have one article on communication today, like why government should communicate with people. But I think one main reason why we saw this exodus of poor people, right, particularly laborers, the main reason was that they were not aware about. They first of all, you might have heard about this thing that they got this news, or this rumor was circling around that this lockdown is going to stay for 3 months. And this is the main reason, like many people, they thought, like this poor people, migrant workers, they thought like for 3 months, for 90 days, it is better to go back home. So why this thing was going on? Because no one from government approached these people. Just imagine if you would have, we know very well, like even today we have people in our cities, right, they are living on streets, right, they sleep on footpaths in India. We know poor locality as well. We have in many cities, you have segmented localities too. Like when I say localities, I'm talking about slums and this sort of poor areas. Like you have migrant laborers from Rajasthan living in this area. You have migrant laborers from Uttar Pradesh, for example, living in this area. You have people from XYZ state living in various different areas. We have this sort of system in our cities, isn't it? I think you will find this thing pan-India. You will find this sort of segmentation. So we know exactly which people, when I say which, I mean to say like people from which state they are living in which area. So what government should have done after declaring lockdown, we should have sent someone to this local area, a local face maybe, an influential person, accompanied by doctors, someone from your revenue department, police personnel, right? And this small team, this neo team, can go there and educate people about what lockdown is, why you need to do, what are the things that you need to do, do's and don'ts and things like that. If you need food, government is going to provide food, how you will get it. If you don't have ration cards, if you don't have ID, then as well you will get the food, right? So all you have to do is stay indoors. If you have any problem, then contact this person, and that contact will be a person from that locality. You can select 2 or 3 people. You can make them like monitors of those particular areas, and this monitors, they will be in touch with this team, right? So if they are not getting food, then this people can inform this people, and this people can directly contact the government team, and then you will get communication from government team, and they can inform these people. So people will stay where they are, if they know that food, water and other things will be supplied to them for free. As long as this lockdown will continue, they will get all these basic necessities. If we could have done that thing, then I think this would have helped us. But unfortunately, we missed this opportunity, or I would say government has missed this opportunity. An effective response in India must consider not only the behavior of the pathogen, but also socio-economic and cultural characteristic. This is very important thing, that how this virus is behaving. To understand that thing is also important. At the same time, we have to understand socio-economic. Our decision should include all these things, socio-economic as well as cultural characteristics of people of our country and the behavior of this virus, and then we can take a proper decision. Only supportive treatment is available at present, and we don't have this capacity to build up things in a very short period of time, right? We are not expert in that thing. Though mind you, I must say that government has created facility for somewhere around 1 lakh beds, and we have 600 plus hospitals already, and more is being done, and the work is on, you can say, right? The work is in progress. So we are doing it, right? And we are doing it, and this is what we should do. When you have this time, lockdown basically gives you extra time to think as well as to act. Now, one more thing. When we are asking poor people to maintain this social distance, do you think social distance is possible in areas like Dharavi? Of course not. Do they have running tap water? No. So frequent hand washing, this sort of things will not help them. What we can do is we should provide them sanitizers. We can provide them masks, right? We have to create campaigns through which we can educate them, create awareness in them. This will help us. And the World Bank estimates, as I told you, 650 million poor people are living in our country, right? So we have to provide them food, this sanitation facility, all these things. And I think after this whole lockdown chapter will get over, hopefully when we will find one medicine or a cure for this thing, vaccine or medicine for this thing, then I think the world will think about, I seriously hope that we should think about, as well as there should be a sort of revolution in the sense, a revolution of thought, a revolution of attitude, in this sab chalta hai kind of attitude. We need to get rid of it, right? What we need more robust health facilities. People should get at least shelter, food, hygiene, all these things should be. We need to have equality in this thing as well, not just in money and political rights. Equality in this sort of facilities should be there. That if you are coming from a rich family or a poor family, if you get ill, you should get same medical facilities. If we can create that thing, and this is possible, if we create that thing, then that will be a big step towards development of our country. South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, Japan, we have some successful examples. South Korea, without any lockdown, we have talked about South Korea earlier on as well. They did like 20,000 tests per day. And this is the main reason why South Korea was able to control this thing without lockdown. In Japan as well, I was going through BBC Global News, and I was quite surprised to know this thing that Japan has created. Japan has used this social responsibility, that people will behave responsibly, and they have behaved, and this is possible in Japan. It's very difficult in country like India. We have to enforce a few things like this lockdown. You have to enforce it, or else if you just ask people, then they will not stay indoors, I think, right? This is again talking about this cultural characteristics of our country. So we have to understand, but we can take some bits and pieces, some successful strategies of these countries and implement it over here. The healthcare thing that I was talking about, I told you that we will talk about when we move ahead. So this is the point here, that what is happening at present is primary healthcare centers, right? Basically, government health staff are now busy with just one thing, and that is coronavirus or COVID-19. So this is creating problems for other people like maternal services, right, delivery and child health, immunizations, tuberculosis, and other things, other sort of this sort of care are on hold, and this is a sad thing, right? This is not acceptable. So this again indicates our lack of preparedness, and we need to work on this thing. So government should all these basic necessities, at the same time this health care services, other apart from this COVID-19, other healthcare services should go as smoothly as possible. So these are the things on which government should pay attention to. Moving on to next item, seize the distractions, seize the moment. Very interesting, very important article. This one is about the changes that we need to implement in our way of working, particularly parliament. Now, two big changes were implemented in recent past by government. The first one is government has reduced the salary and allowances of our MPs, and the second one is MP lads. This scheme has been suspended for a particular time period. So can you give me a number of years for which this MP lads has been suspended? Stick your answer in the comment section. This is your question number 1. I have one more question associated with MP lads. It's a descriptive type question. We'll talk about it at the end of the discussion. So can you believe that by slashing a chunk of salary from this parliament or this MPs, this will save 25,000 per month, and this is not a big amount. If you are reducing 25,000 rupees from one MP's salary and allowances and everything, then 25,000 is not a big amount, to be honest, for a country like India. It should be otherwise. Like in UK, what they have done is they have increased allowances for member of parliament by £10,000 so that these MPs, they can stay home and they can do everything that is possible or everything that is there in their hands to run this country as smooth as possible. So by if you give them extra money, if you give them extra support, then this will help them to work for the nation. During the crisis, it is expected that MPs will take actions and policies that will help us manage or mitigate this impact of epidemic. That's what we expect from our leaders, and that's what they should do as well. And they can use technology. We have this technology at present, isn't it? Video conference can be used, and by video conference you can connect with various different MPs. You can have brainstorming sessions, what we can do, what we are going to do, and things like that. And quite interestingly, UK is going to start a virtual session from 21st April. After this Easter break, UK is going to have this, Parliament is going to have a virtual session via video conference. British Parliament, they have created a page on their website through which you can go through different actions taken by government, as well as secondary legislation scrutiny committee is scrutinizing the role of the government and the things that government is doing and the orders that government is issuing. In New Zealand as well, they have this epidemic response committee has been created, and this committee is looking or keeping an eye on the government, like what government is doing and how the Parliament of New Zealand, what are the steps taken by government in controlling this whole epidemic. But in India, unfortunately, this thing is absent, right? Our Parliament was adjourned back in 23rd May. 23rd March, sorry about that, 23rd March 2020, our Parliament was adjourned. And before that as well, we were talking about Sanskrit University and Ayurveda Institute and other things. Even the finance bill was passed without any discussion. There was no discussion on possible implications of coronavirus epidemic and policy measures to tackle it. This was the week when the Prime Minister made the first televised speech to the nation on this coronavirus issue. Remarkably, there was no recognition on the pressures on the budget when it was passed that week, and since then Parliament had not held committee meetings. There have been no official statements regarding the possibility of holding this through video conference. In brief, Parliament has abdicated its role as the elected body that checks the work of the government on behalf of citizens. Instead, we get the symbolic gesture of reductions in pay and allowances. So this is a sad thing. Right? This is the most important thing about this article, that this big makeup is not required. The most visible thing is when you chop MP lads, or when you suspend this scheme, and when you are slashing the salary of MPs. It looks big, but it's not going to help us actually, isn't it? That is not going to create any, means in fact it is going to create more damage. Instead, we should think about how we can explore technology, right? How we can use video conference and other technology, and how these MPs they can interact with each other. What are the things through which we can get rid of all those unnecessary protocols, right? Daily paperwork, how we can digitize it, how we can make it a bit more, I would say, effective as well as efficient, right? How we can make it a bit more user friendly. We can later on share it with other people, the things that are done by the government in a particular day. If you see the communication as well, then that is also too rigid. The language that is used is not that simple. And pay and allowances of MPs should be discussed, right? It should be increased. They should be provided with dedicated office space. They should have their own research staff, so that they can have the best information and knowledge possible, so that they can take right decision for our country. If you see USA senators, they get $174,000 per annum, plus allowances of $3 million per annum, and then you can expect a best result for them. Over here we get nothing, right? It's not 1.3 lakh per month is not, and they don't really care about this money as well, because we know that most of our MPs, they are crore-patis, right? So for them 1 lakh rupees is not a big thing, to be honest. And you know how elections are, right? They spend crores and crores, even in small, nowadays in village level election as well, spending 5-10 lakh rupees is not a big thing. So the steps that we are taking, like I'll give you one example. If you misbehave, or if you do something wrong, even today we have fines like 50 rupees and 100 rupees. This is not going to create any sort of, like, if someone has, let's say, misbehaved with someone, and rather than fining that person 50 rupees, if you fine 5,000 rupees plus 1 week of community service, that you have to sweep the road for 1 week, that will create an impact. So in the same way, increase the money and responsibility, give them technology, train them how to use these things, and let them have their own research staff. And most important thing is, by doing all this thing, right, just like in films we expect best actors, in any office we expect best talent, right? In the same way, in politics as well, in parliament as well, we should have best people, best minds. They should create laws and policies for us, right? Not just those people who can win election. Right? Winning election is a different skill, and framing laws and policies is a different skill, though there are a few common things in it as well. But for that we need changes at various different fronts, in politics, in way we see our politicians, what we expect as a society from our politicians. So there are many things that we have to change to get the best people in our parliament. But there are a few things that we can do now, and that is, we can deploy technology to make the most of. We can at least learn from this New Zealand and UK and other countries, right? They are deploying this video conferencing and things, so we can do the same thing. Harmonizing with nature, very interesting article. If you go back in Germany in 1920s, in the history of Germany, Germany was ruined by this hyperinflation back in 1920s, and this lesson they have kept it in their mind. And in this coronavirus whole crisis as well, Germany is abiding with fiscal discipline, and it is trying to tackle this inflation. It is trying to control this inflation. It is trying to make sure that this inflation does not go out of hand. Back in USA, somewhere around 30s, Great Depression started, and US President Franklin D. Roosevelt, he unleashed a New Deal, that is a series of reforms. These reforms were pertaining to fiscal sector regulation, insurance of private savings, labor standards, introduction of social security, and other things. And today as well, this changes, this New Deals, and its positive points. You can even feel it today in USA's society. After this 9/11 and 26/11, We see security cameras and police and other people with their guns and everything in various different places in public places, and this is something that has become a routine, or we have accepted this thing because we know that this is for us, right? We have to pay a price for our safety. But after 2008, I don't think so we have learned the lesson from this financial crisis, because if you see our world, we know these big things, we are aware about this big problems, environmental issues, and in this article the writer is talking about macro scale issues like carbon emission. And because of this thing, I'll just give you one or two examples. This ice is melting in Antarctica and Arctic, and this ice melting is raising the sea level, and this is a big threat for so many island nations and crores of people. And in most countries you will see this thing, like for example Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, our big cities are located on seashores, isn't it? So rising sea level is going to be a threat for crores and crores of people, maybe after a few years, maybe after 10 years, right? But it is a big threat. So this changes are going on for a very long period of time, right? Forests, we have destroyed forests. Our policies, we are destroying so many things, and this is creating severe storms. Natural calamities are taking more and more places, more natural calamities, more severe and more frequent natural calamities. And this coronavirus is an indication of this microscopic level. So we are now, in between this both ends. One end is this microscopic changes or microscopic I would say problems, and on the other side we have created some big problems, right? So in between we are here, and we haven't learned any lesson, right? We should learn. This whole thing, the big things, the macro level thing and micro level thing, is again a reminder for us that if we take things lightly, if we think that we have controlled this nature and we can, by technology we can reshape our environment, then we are making a big mistake. And country like India, we have this culture of respecting nature, mother nature. We call it mother nature, isn't it? In India, in Indian way of life. It's not about Hinduism or any particular religion, it's about Indian way of life. If we go back in the history of our country, then we will see this, that we have always, our culture has always respected nature. So we should take a lead in this thing, right? And this is again a reminder that our consumption, we need to control our consumption. We have to be a bit gentle with our nature. We cannot just do what we are been doing in 20th century and 21st century, right? The way we are exploiting this has to stop. And there are so many things, like for example, even doctors today, they are saying that those doctors who are treating COVID-19 patients, they are saying that healthy living and robust immune system is the best, you can say the best thing that you can have to fight this coronavirus. This is the best defense against this coronavirus. After that, medicines and other things will take place. But are we living a good, best life? Can we say healthy living possible in city areas of our country where we have polluted cities? Out of 20 most polluted cities, you will find 14, 15 cities are from our country. So there are so many things that we need to change. Communication, right? We are running out of time, so I'm going to be a bit quick here. Today, as I told you, we have 7 articles, and all these articles are important, so I don't want to miss them. I want to highlight all these important points I want to present. So let's gather all our energy and let's stick with it for another maybe 5 minutes max, right? So dear friends, in India's response, a communication failure is quite visible. As I told you about this whole this exodus, migrant exodus, I think it took place because there was no communication from government side, not clear communication, right? Just informing. Prime Minister can inform the whole nation, but then your local leaders, right, your local administrator, like your collectors, your local MLAs, your local MPs, they should come out and they should reach out to people. You have radio, videos, so many things that you can make viral, through which you can send this message to each and every person. The importance of lockdown, why we are doing lockdown, why it is important, what is going on in various different countries. A government should tie up with media. It should make media as an ally so that we can spread right information, so that this fake, misleading, alarmist news are they will already, they will automatically fade away when your government will come out, when it will ally with media, when it will start sharing right information with people. Daily briefing. We were talking about this Chief Minister of Kerala. Remember that he gives daily briefings, and because of this thing, the confidence of people of Kerala has gone up as well. So we can have the same thing at national level. Prime Minister can brief the whole country every day about the things that we are doing, progress and other things. Then your chief ministers, then your district administrators, right? Your local leaders, they can also do the same thing. If we have this briefing, like in my area, for example, I'm giving you one example, a local leader can brief the people, local radio, or local, they can viral this video. We have so many platforms. He or she can give information about local area, that we don't have any coronavirus affected patients here, what we need to do, where are the things that you need, where you will find it, and all these things, right information. So I think we have failed here, right? And because of this thing, we are seeing so many this sort of riots, and so not riots actually, but people coming out on street in Surat, and we were talking about this Bandra incident as well. And in this article it is said, and this is right as well, that during time of crisis the government has to over communicate, right? And what we are seeing is government is under communicating. And the harassment of farmers now. This one is an appeal from various different farmer committees, and this is right as well. On one side, government is giving statements that farmers are allowed to work, and on grassroots level, police people, they are stopping these farmers. So at both ends, right? Government should communicate clearly with its personnel, that police personnel, that they should allow farmers. At the same time, farmers and other, like there are truck drivers, they are also facing issues. Many states are not allowing truck drivers to enter or exit. So this is again a failure of communication. So we cannot afford this sort of things, right? We have to get our economy back on track. Moving on to news items, dear friends, being very brief here. What will be allowed, what will not be allowed is clearly given here. Please go through it. Most important thing that I would like to highlight here is this one. IMD has announced its forecast about monsoon, and it has said that India is going to receive normal monsoon. Now, this long period average figure is changed. LPA is basically a seasonal rainfall over our country from 1961 to 2010. So this was this 50-year average was 89 centimeter earlier on, but now it has changed, right? IMD has changed it from 89 to 88 centimeter. There has been a reduction of 1 centimeter. So keep this thing in mind. 88 centimeter is new LPA, right? You can find a question in your prelims examination about this thing. So very important information. And then you have other news items. Please help yourself with it. And I have this question: highlight the issues associated with MP-LEDs, this scheme, right? You have to point out issues. So you can either write down a paragraph, or you can write down points associated with this, issues associated with this MP-LEDs. And I'll see you with daily financial news analysis. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Jai Hind.